不会想到他们还会继续迫害我，把我又关进监狱里边去，所以我就回去了。我是希望我的痛苦的命运能够得到那个美国政府的关怀，给我得到一种自由的那个庇护。
Jamal Mohammed, come here, window 2, please.
How you say this? Georgie Albert Kumani, window number 6, please. Hi, sir. So you understand English?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I have good news for you. You've been recommended to be approved for asylum, meaning your interview went well. Window 3. Okay. You will receive this copy of this letter, which is your recommended approval. Okay, right now I need to sign the copy that's in the file.
Okay. Congratulations. Thanks.
Okay, sir.
Young, H-U-A-N-G, window 2, please.
Can you let her know that no decision was made on her case? So the case is still pending with the service, but she has been referred to an immigration judge for further consideration. Okay, the judge will also make the final determination on her application.
Hello.
Translator, hello.
Okay, hi. Hi,
the
good
couple.
afternoon. Who's the principal applicant?
This one.
Do you have ID, sir? ID, please.
你的护照。
Thank you. Here you go, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
The service is recommending that the case be approved, so congratulations to you.
已经通过了。
哦，上课。
Hi, you're welcome.
Esta è la prima lettura del libro dell'Esodo.
Por poco me aprenderé. El Señor respondió a Moisés, paso delante del pueblo, acompañado de los ancianos de Israel. Un el bastón con el que gobiaste el mulo de camino. Yo estaré frente a ti junto a la rocha de Horeb. Golpea la rocha y saldrá agua para que bebe el pueblo. Moisés lo hizo ante los ancianos de Israel. Yo llamo al lugar Masa en Meribá, porque se habían reunido y habían tentado al Señor, preguntando, ¿está el Señor entre nosotros? Esta es la palabra de Dios. En nombre del Padre, Hijo y Espíritu Santo. Amén.
Gladys Cruz. Gladys Tomasa Cruz. Gladys Tomasa Cruz.
We have a lawyer in one.
How are you doing today?
I'm an interpreter.
Okay. Okay, follow me, please.
Fueron por la tarde, a eso de
In the
las 6 de la
afternoon,
tarde.
about 6
p.m., they went.
que ya en El Salvador empieza a ponerse ya oscuro.
At that time in El Salvador, it started getting dark.
Sacaron a la esposa de mi hermano,
They took my brother's wife,
que solamente ella se encontraba en la casa,
because she was the only one in the house.
y la llevaron a un río que se llama Salguate. Está
They
cerca
took
de
her
esa colonia.
to a river, which name is Alguate, close to that neighborhood.
Entonces allí
And there,
la torturaron,
they tortured her.
seguramente suponemos para sacarle más información.
We think that because they want more information.
Okay, just take your time. Take your time.
Toma su tiempo. Toma su tiempo, okay?
Perdón.
It's
Excuse
okay.
me.
That's all right. Just take your time.
Do you have a Kleenex?
Oh, no.
Oh, no, it's hard.
You have some napkins if you need.
Thank you. A ella la torturaron,
They tortured her.
le desarmaron, le
They
abrieron
destroyed
su cara.
they opened the face.
Luego la pusieron boca abajo,
They put her down,
le dieron
down.
6 disparos en
and
la
they
espalda.
gave her 6 shots in the back.
Gente que la conocía
People that know her,
lo reportó al cuartel donde mi hermano
they told to the
estaba.
cuartel where my brother was.
Él cuando se había escapado había agarrado para el cuartel.
When he escaped from that group, he went to the cuartel. He went back to the cuartel, the brother.
Se encontraba ahí
He was
cuando
there
informaron eso.
when they informed him about his wife.
The guy who's living in the United States for 27 years decides he's going to take a little trip up to over the border, and 27 years of gone. I mean, he lives, everything's here, his family's here, everything's here. Except for his little criminal problem, which means that he probably knew about it, and that's why he didn't apply for, further benefit. He didn't have permanent residency, he was illegal. He could have gotten the Cuban Adjustment Act, he could have gotten all kinds of stuff, but I will probably send somebody up there.
So what's your Todd's case?
So the
anyway.
Salvadoran thing,
Okay.
17 years military,
Yeah,
sister's
et
face
cetera,
ripped
et
off,
cetera,
et cetera,
right,
et cetera,
right,
returns to town.
So-
89, they come up to the United States. He's still in the military until
Yeah.
93. Okay.
Now, here's the thing. In 93, her nephew gets beat to death by 4 people,
Okay.
4 men, okay? So she's afraid to go back
Okay.
because she thinks they're still being targeted.
Now,
Now-
the nephew is beaten.
Yeah.
They don't know who the 4 men are. But he's
They
beaten.
don't know who the 4 men are.
Okay. The brother-in-law was a taxi cab driver, was shot in the back. They don't know who shot him in the
They
back.
don't know who shot him in the back.
The woman, the sister-in-law, was murdered by the river, face ripped off, whatever. They don't know who killed her either.
No.
They're saying they think it may be the guerrillas.
Yeah. I think she did give us enough with the events of 83.
What are those events?
That's the sister-in-law.
The fact that, like a day or 2 after the brothers were confronted by the rebels and they escaped,
Okay.
and the rebels had their papers and stuff,
Okay.
that the wife of one of the 2 men was abducted, tortured, and killed,
Okay.
and that neighbors told them that there were strangers during the wake.
Right.
There were strangers asking who the family members were and who they were and where they were, etc.
All right. That's
That
all right.
you have
Okay.
possible threats,
That's a little bit more.
similarly situated, etc.
That speculation may be based on something more than, it's not maybe mere speculation, it may be a logical conclusion. However,
Yeah.
it also occurred in 83, she left in 89.
No. But that could be evidence of past persecution is what I'm saying. You
Not
don't have
of
to
her.
address that.
Not of her.
If they're asking about family members and this was a similarly situated
No, it
person,
doesn't rise to the level of past persecution. She has to know she was threatened and specify what those threats are.
There's a whole line
Bird
of
speaking.
cases, and they're mostly Salvadoran cases in the Ninth
Hello,
Circuit.
Tom. on
Are you calling about that Cuban
like
fellow?
when a
No,
threat
that's
Yeah.
Buffalo.
constitutes
Buffalo called us yesterday.
persecution.
Another case. I'm sorry.
And this one just wouldn't even come close.
Okay. Well,
At the same time, too, we have one victim,
But
okay?
let's do this, Tom.
We don't,
If you
if
could,
they had stayed there,
could you send me?
and if we had waited for another
Ag
victim,
60 in your did you do
how do we
Q&A
know
then?
that it wouldn't have been one of the brothers or sisters?
Nobody ever
Elizabeth,
threatened
but if they
her.
don't, they've been actually
I mean,
sending
really,
people
for
to
the threat to
detention
rise to
center
the
there,
level of
usually been interviewing
persecution,
there.
there'd have to have been
But
somebody that
let me make a
actually made a
determination.
threat. It could be an anonymous
Send it to,
threat,
area
even,
code
but a
201.
threat.
531.
But the fact that another member of her family
1877.
suffered harm,
And Wally
and
Bird
then
sent
the
them
army
to-
said, well, there might be something going on here, and packed them off, that's not
Okay, what's your
persecution.
number there, Tom?
I mean, you know,
Wow, you know, that's, it seems to me that that's pretty harsh. I mean, that you have to have an actual affirmative threat. That you can't take
not that-
the whole circumstances
But we're-
of what occurred.
you're missing
And
the point. I mean,
it
you're
feel
making a
threatened.
distinction here between when it becomes persecution and
Right.
when there's a well-founded fear.
Right.
I'm not saying in 1983 she didn't have a well-founded
Oh,
fear,
okay.
possibly,
Right,
but
right.
she didn't suffer
She
persecution.
didn't suffer persecution.
Okay.
Because there was no
okay,
threat.
Okay. I see what your point is. I was determining that she had a well-founded fear in '83.
Yeah, I'm not gonna gainsay that.
Right,
She may have
right.
had a well-founded fear in 1983, but what does she have now,
Well, now it's a whole different
14
story.
years later?
Sometimes you get a case where the person has pictures of dead bodies. And that's, of course, the last thing you want to look at. And they just give them to you, and I'm like, ugh, but I have to look at them. So look at them, and then you're just horrified as to what goes on in some of these countries. And sometimes you get some of these sweet little ladies who are like from Russia, some of those countries, and they're just little ladies, and they tell you stories about people beating them up because they're Jewish. No other reason. And you're like, how could someone beat on her? She's 70 years old, she's 60 years old. That could be your grandmother. How are you beating on her in the street because she's Jewish? And she's sitting here and she's crying, and she can't stop crying. And we're not permitted to cry. We can't cry during interviews. It's not a good thing. And you can't, you want to come sometimes give them a hug, but you can't. You can't do it.
That's
So you
why
have
keep
to-
your tissues right there, right?
Yes,
I mean,
you have, you have
that's
to
all
have
you
a
can do.
tissue.
The hardest thing about this job is the things you can never say. I still believe that the things I can't even explain, or I can't because it's in my unconscious. Why do how come I have the position I have? And I think that about. Well, we see a lot of fraudulent cases. There's a lot of credibility issues, and I think that there could be a lot. I repress a lot of the pain that I see in people's lives. I go home and I don't even. I mean, I try not to think about it, but what do I do with those feelings?
I think you certainly become extremely cynical, and I think at some point you don't want to take crap from people. That you certainly don't want to do. If you gain anything from this job, it's that. In the beginning, you're more reasonable, you're more naive, and your grant rate's probably a lot higher. I think probably.
What do you really think when you get the same claim? Oh, I helped pull down the statue of the former dictator. Oh,
We've got a lot of those.
I know that. I took part.
I need detail.
I took place in a
I
hunger
need
strike.
detail.
I took part in a hunger strike.
Well,
I did this.
you know what?
I did that.
We'll
They're all the
discuss it later.
same now. You know.
I know.
So now what do you do?
Well, they have to give me detail.
Right. They
I
can still
granted-
get asylum though. Yeah.
I granted a man that said that, but then he was also involved with other groups there, and he could answer my questions.
Mhm.
He gave me detail. He was clearly educated.
Mhm.
So if
How about educated people? A special place in your heart for people with educated?
no, but they can give me more information.
Yeah, but
Than if they're not. I mean,
in
but if
effect,
you
though,
lived
isn't
it,
true,
no.
though?
But if you lived it, you can give me the answers too.
When I get somebody from China who I know is a PhD, I'm much more generous with them than I am from some guy who I may think is cooking in the back of some kitchen.
Oh.
And it's not because it's not, I mean, it's not, that's not how I'm thinking either. But I'm thinking that, oh, this person is very articulate. Their claim is very...
Well, of course, it makes it easier to understand it. And if they can answer your questions without you repeating the question and rephrasing the question 3 and 4 times,
Right.
it makes it easier.
Right, but sometimes I wonder if that is
No.
that am I
No,
am I
basic-
just more am I sympathetic because I can identify with this educated person whereas
No,
with
it's
this
not. It's because,
peasant, I mean
first of all, when you ask them the question, they have to establish their case.
ਇੱਥੇ ਕਦੋਂ ਆਇਆ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਮੈਂ ਆਇਆ 12 96 ਨੂੰ 96 ਕਿ 95 96 ਨੂੰ ਜੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ 95 ਕਰਾਉਣਾ ਹਾਂ 95 ਔਰ ਐਸਾ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਹਾਂਜੀ ਅਜੀ 95 ਕਰਾਉਣਾ ਇਹ ਖਿਆਲ ਰੱਖਿਓ ਬਸ ਜੀ ਉਹਨੇ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਵੀ ਇੱਥੇ 1 ਸਾਲ ਕੇਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਅੱਗੇ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇੱਥੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਵੀ ਸੈਲਮ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਬੰਦਾ ਕੋਈ
It's very, how do you decide whether someone's telling the truth or not? It's not simple, and you're never sure. That's the problem. If you are pretty sure that it's not the truth, that's at least a comfortable position to be in that you know that you're making a decision based on something that's real. But in a case like this where it's just plain fuzzy, I have to talk to somebody else about it to get another perspective.
Can some of these stay fuzzy?
Somewhat? Yes. That's life. I mean, it's real life. We're dealing with real people, real situations. Yes, they stay fuzzy forever. And we still have to make a decision based on fuzziness.
人哋一啲考，人哋一啲考。
喂，你想成日咧，我舉心下個手會打麼？
冇，以前好似係會分牌。嚇？
所以我女不考干我咧攞拖我咧，你攞佢講我，你講咧拖我咧。
喂，係最會一睇唔知咗啊？最冇分牌，但係點啲咁樣？
時間你哋到啊？
做啲都冇，話嗱冇攞去打。點樣嘢都冇嘅，點樣嘢去放呢個就好長。
對我這邊我睇到邊咁聽。是講你什麼？睇嚟你咪我，你咪我現在真係變好，是因為而家等於是講叫我生於推鞋，而家俾我念。
You really become very sensitive to what the person has said on their application, what they're telling you, because you know in your heart as well as your head that the person sitting in front of you, none of this happened to them, or it's very unlikely. Occasionally, you do have a grant, a legitimate grant. Why did Mr. Yang leave China back in December of '91?
你究竟呢成年屋企嚟你去對我？
我就嚟佢睇啲上課雞隻嚟，以前都冇教咗，佢話在家頭我比較呢參加學生運動，即係隨小校人等於破學。
The first reason is that he's being sterilized in China. The second reason is that in 1989 he joined the student movement, and then he's being persecuted.
Okay. You didn't leave until December of '91. What, if anything, happened to him in the 4.5 years between he was sterilized and when he left China.
OK， 你是被前年在但是你离開端我是嗰年成年我，但作為4年還時間，對咯，我應該第二發生。
4年話時間會搞不叫我解解一下呢？那剛搞咩處理是難，除非南會玩多做做同你睇到氣氣，因為那個我哋解解嘅呢，亞洲那個你要解解噶，所把嘢點解冇所難字啊？係咪？同埋氣氣。
Okay, after he's been sterilized, the people in the village laughed at him because he no longer feel like he's being a man, because at that time very few male were sterilized. Normally those women were sterilized.
Okay, so he felt some sort of shame, or he was not getting any kind of respect because he had been sterilized.
He used to have more than 120 pounds. Right now he's only 95 pounds.
Why would being sterilized make him lose weight?
Okay, 佢哋嘅就影響到你體內咁多。
我有咩話雞仔，反正大雞仔做唔係做咩話會聽到聽得下啲咁咯，未必咯。
He did not know.
The reason I ask, and I'm not a doctor, but I know that when males are sterilized, you tend to put on some weight, I believe. I'm just curious why he would have lost weight.
People are actually coached too. I mean, they have people who help them prepare these applications and tell them what to say. Well, it's like they tell them, well, you really should cry during the interview. Not that that's really going to help them, but they think if they cry, that's going to get them a grant. It's like they don't want to go home. They want to stay here. Sometimes you can catch them in lies and they'll continue to lie.
Right, but I think that you just kind of, you can't really internalize that where you're like,
No,
look at
it's
this
hard
guy lied to
sometimes.
me.
He's like, yeah, it really bothers me when people sit here and they just lie to me.
The next night at 7 o'clock in the evening, the public security people come. They take him away.
All right, so what happened?
之後呢？
你就講架到個講架送喺旅館啦，就冇醫
In the hotel in Shanghai.
送喺旅館咧，所以點解點講硬硬摸嚟拍拖拍摸嚟求？
Okay.
所以咁我定呢啊，仲話聽冇嘢，那個要自己
Okay, what is he saying, please?
Okay, one of the guards was sleeping by the door.
伊問下神要試嘢啊，對話咧拍皮拍搞，拍皮拍神定用。
Okay, what is he saying, please?
Okay, there were 4 guards. They were playing cards.
Okay.
Until one.
No, okay, there were 4 guards. So what happened?
係啊，會加開球嘛，喏，這邊只個開球嘛，搞依個咧都考一下，會將潮嗰個破壞啊，會潮嗰個破壞做個都唔用關咧，同埋唔用關咁嘅球嘛。
Okay, he was handcuffed to the bed, but when everybody went to sleep, he wanted to open the handcuff.
How was he able to open the handcuffs?
你總開啲條咯。
嗱，就講一手講自用可能摸住個就係人哋雙夾咪喎㗎，人哋雙夾咪喎㗎啦。
He said normally the handcuff he cannot open a normal handcuff, but that one is not very good.
Okay, so how did he get out of this situation? Obviously, he's sitting in front of me. What happened?
之後仲呢，我先想問你總離開啊？
會要住我聽咩都幾啊，但我產生都幾啊。
He climbed up from the window on the 3rd floor.
He climbed out of the window on the 3rd floor. Okay.
最關嘛，要温度搞我重建我自己到你嘅變。
What happened after he climbed out of the window on the 3rd floor?
OK， 之後你巴咗之後發生先問題。
巴咗之後會最近好好送嚟回嚟啊。
Okay, he walked to the Shanghai train station.
He climbed out the window in Shanghai, largest city in China, climbed down from the 3rd floor window, walked to the train station, bought himself a ticket, and went to wherever he was going. Is that correct? I mean, nobody saw him?
冇人看見你而家點樣帶上車？
冇人看見會拜啊，冇看見嚟幾日條都冇人看見咯。
Okay, nobody saw him climb down from the window, but of course when he's walking on the street, of course
是我的
people
運
saw
氣
him.
吧，3天半夜。
He said it's his luck.
Okay, well, that's for sure. All right, what does he think would happen to him if he went back?
你那種啲話發生先落地嘅。
我那種啲我哋發框雞隻呢，一年為啲嚟死啲個會結阿媽，政府冇結阿媽，只做東啊就係永遠不論呢個國家嘛。嗰啲嘢讓人哋唔好係嘛。
Okay, he'll be fine too, and the issue regarding the June 1st movement hasn't been resolved. They will give him further trouble.
Okay, just a couple more questions and I think we'll be done. What can I tell you? You tried hard. Anyway, just another day at the office.
Is that an unusual story?
Usually the more common one, and he was giving the democracy movement thing, but the more common one, especially for birth control cases, is 5 or 6 guys. I was in a police station. There were 5 or 6 guys around me. Somehow, some way, I escaped. You know, I mean, and they'll often say they went to the bathroom and climbed out a window. In fact, Frank has a very funny assessment he wrote about that, which he later changed, of course, but his comment was police stations in Fuzhou should consider putting bars on their bathroom windows. But that's the more common story, you know. 5 or 6 guys surrounded me. I was in a police station, and yet, lo and behold, I got out of it. So that's more common. Let me see. Did I copy this? Yeah, I did. So, but yeah, it was different. It was a twist on the same tall tale, as it were.
Flavi, window 4. Anton Syq, window number 6, please. Hi.
Good evening.
Who's Flavi? You have ID, ma'am? Tell her that her case has been referred to the immigration judge. Tell her what
This is
she's
maybe the 450th time that I've interviewed a similar case. Because I've had this experience, I'm seeing a totally different story. You sat in on one case that I had, and I made a credibility determination. You know, well, first he said there were 2 people in the van, then he said there were 3, and then he said, you know, and I determined that this person wasn't credible. You know, aside from the horrible story, you know, that he was detained and beaten, and I do that every day. And I've referred people, women who've told me that they were raped and that they've been abused and they've been, you know, and I didn't do it because they didn't fall within the framework of what it takes to get asylum. I did it because I found that they weren't credible, you know, and that maybe, you know, someone who wasn't, who hadn't done this enough. And I know in the beginning, as I said earlier, that I used to grant a whole lot more, but you know, after you do this for a while, you become much more critical, and you become very aware of inconsistencies, and I hope that's what it is, right? I mean, it could be the fact that you're just very jaded, you know. And how do you know where one begins and the other ends? I mean, how do I know? You know, I mean. If I admitted that I was jaded, wouldn't I then be saying that I shouldn't be doing this job anymore? So I say that I have a more acute understanding of credibility issues.
Okay. What language did you translate in?
Chinese and Mandarin.
Mandarin?
Yeah.
With the Chinese cases, you have to just go for them in terms of their credibility, and usually you can get them. And I realize that sounds kind of sinister. I'm going to get them. But that's what you got to do.
This is the judge's copy. Sign it also.
It's usually not too difficult. They're not too sophisticated. They're basically a bunch of farmers and factory workers, and they've been basically practicing some story. Come on, get Ed. He wants this. Come on, film Ed.
I wonder how many of them go back and complain to the preparer that their story wasn't
None.
all that good.
None, because the preparer's got all the cards. I'm sure the bottom line report or threat is You give me any trouble and I'll report you to immigration, tell them that your whole claim is bogus and you're going to be on the next plane back to Beijing or Fujian or wherever it is they come from. And they can't speak the language, they don't know anything about the legal avenues here, so they just go along with it.
Yeah, but don't you think they privately laugh at us too? Because even when we, do all this and send them to the judge, and the judge deports them into detention, nothing happens to them, don't they? I mean, word gets around. They got to know
Sure
that.
it is. If they didn't, they wouldn't be here.
Right. But what's the point of them even coming here?
Because if they don't come here, they can't get anything. If they do come here, they might get something.
But they know it's the lottery and the odds are stacked.
Right, but have you ever bought a lottery ticket?
Nabil? Tabet? Nabil?
You don't take a lot.
Nabil.
Hearing your name?
Yeah.
We may be turning the applicants into cases as opposed to human beings. Everybody does it. You know, once you start hearing things that sound the same. I mean, they used to say that it was easy when we had the Chinese cases because none of them were telling the truth. It's all made up. Well, yeah, I've had a lot of cases where people have told me things that I have figured out are not true, who are Chinese. But I've also had an awful lot of Chinese who have applied for asylum that have told me things that are true. So I can't believe that everybody who tells the truth comes to me.
I think a lot of cases are actually great. It's just hard sometimes bringing out the testimony, you know? I mean, the most skeletal application for asylum, it could be like lots of great stuff and 3 inches of like bullshit. Okay, but how old were you? Give me a figure.
¿Cuántos años tenía usted?
Como 11 años, 12 años, ¿no?
11, 12 years old. There was a fraud. And
One day I had a guy who just had a just boilerplate one-child policy case. I mean, couldn't be more boilerplate. And of course, nothing like that ever happened to him. He didn't know anything about what was on the application. And for some reason, we started talking about religion. He said he's a Catholic, you know. And I asked him questions about that. And then there was all this stuff that came out. And then he produced a wanted notice, you know, from his pocket, this crumbled up thing, and I had it analyzed here and elsewhere, okay, and it was the real thing. I mean, he actually had mass in his house, and he, you know, he would invite priests in, and he had been targeted a number of times. And I said, why didn't you tell me this? He said, well, this is just what the preparers told me to do, to come and tell you that I was married and had kids, you know? It's a great case. So you learn as you go. That's the great part about this, is you don't know what's walking through the door.
我一开始就生个女的，是不是？那我当然要寻求，要争取去生一个男的，但是在中国没有这个机会。那个，如果你超生躲避都没办法，但是他可以拆你的房子。
按指标，我可以怎么样？就是说，我要抓几个人，他就是随便抓你什么人去。不是说，但是中国是人口太多哈，我们也知道。但是再说来，中国
像我哥哥就在那个殡仪馆工作的，就是经常烧这样的孩子。
人家是说打胎打了，
双胞胎的，就打掉一个，后来
只是死一个，他可能催产针打了哈，死一个，后来抱回来了。
我哥哥把他抱回来，现在连工作都没有。就是那个发生事情以后啊，我朋友帮我找到舌头，搞了一本护照，他就是随便你去哪一个国家，他都可以帮你做到。但是我知道美国是最开放的国家，
I don't know what would have happened if I remained, but I knew I had to get out of there. I came here and I applied for political asylum, and finally, after almost 7 years, I have an interview scheduled. By training, I'm an engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer by training. Obviously, the first 1.5 years, maybe I tried to find a job as an engineer. Nobody would look at me. No American experience. You have no clue what engineering is like in this country. Why would we hire you? So I took the oddest jobs, and I wrapped flyers for the weekend issues of the Times or of the New York whatever Post or Daily News. I wrapped those flyers and put them in a plastic bag and distributed them. Obviously, I was in construction like an unqualified worker. My wife was cleaning. You name it, I think I've done it.
Did you turn in your slips?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi.
You nervous?
You can say that.
You ready for this?
I'm ready for this for 7 years.
Did you bring the translations?
Yes. What if my asylum case is denied? What if I'm sent back there? 7 years, I started from zero. I got to a point where actually I'm giving. And all of a sudden I'm facing this possibility. Hey, we don't care. You can start all over again. That's 7 years. Maybe my best years, who knows?
And then he
حسيت لازم توقفي صح
the protest massacre, which is very well documented.
نعم
And it's in Central.
مشيت شوية
باش يطلع السمونة نمشي لهم
ميبي توقفيكم يخليو
هوا
غادر دوموندي غادر دويتي
شموني قبل هاي البلاستيك
خاطري قلت بعدي
كون جيتي انسانت بصوفي نهار تليفونا ولي
كيفاش حسيتي؟ هضري كي تليفونا لك باغ كيفاش حسيتي؟ كيفاش رحتي؟
حسيت على الموت صايي
Parce qu'elle était enceinte de Sophie.
J'étais enceinte.
Elle a reçu un coup de fil.
J'ai reçu un coup de fil, alors j'étais vraiment...
C'est almost the baby on the phone,
J'étais vraiment malade. Il a dit que quand tu fais pas le hijab, je te tue. Moi, شرع الله, moi, حكم الله.
C'est pour leur opinion politique. C'était clair et net. La famille est très très connue. Ils sont contre la violence, ils sont contre toute autre forme de violence, quelle que soit son origine. Donc, ils le disaient ouvertement.
مش بعتيش صوفي جامي تحسي بلي كون تو مارش تخرجي تمشي برا ما تخافيش جامي دوري هكذا توجور تمشي ديريكت تمشي يعني ديريكت هنا ما نحش روحي نموت هنا نو باسكو جو سوي à l'aise الحمد لله ما كاش ما نخافش كون جو دور à l'aise c'est-à-dire حتى الصباح jusqu'à matin. Mais en Algérie, non, je dors pas. Non, je dors jamais, je dors pas.
Oh, Jesus. If there's ever been a country that'll bring tears to your eyes, that's it. any case from Algeria you have to take seriously because it's such a dangerous, volatile place. I think that everybody in the country is in danger. And to me, the whole thing hinges on whether her family has been singled out. Farida Ali Latin. What I want to do is to talk to you for a while about why you're seeking asylum. I want to understand your story as best I can. You should feel free to talk to me. Nothing that you say will go back to your government.
هو هنا عايز يسمع منك قصتك وليه انت طالبه اللجوء السياسي وهو بيقول لك خدي حريتك وتكلمي زي ما انت عايزه.
يعني كلمك تركي؟
بحريه اللي عايزه تكلمي.
أنا يعني إحنا عائلتنا عائلة سياسية من جدي وروح اسمه جدي بابا عمومي إحنا عندنا عائلة سياسية.
What's she talking about?
She is saying we come from a family.
Okay. I'm going to talk to her about it. Right now I'm just trying to explain what's going to happen. There are a couple of things that I don't understand about the written testimony, ma'am. Here it says, on or about July 1996, I was on the beach with my daughter. 2 bombs exploded, killing and wounding several people. Our neighbor...
That was my princess.
Okay, what's the rest of it?
كملي القصة.
أحكي لك؟
يا احكي القصة الباقي.
من أولها ولا من آخرها؟
لا الباقي قولي من أولها طيب.
كملي الجملة دي بس.
الجملة؟
يس كملي.
أنا لما رحت البحر عند دارونا عملوا لنا 2 بومبات في الرملة وجست احنا مشينا 5 دقائق اتفجرت لما رحنا هم عملوها عشاننا يعني هم كانوا مقصودين احنا اللي حنموت.
Okay, she says
كنت مع بابا وبنتي وخالتي وماما.
She was with her father and her daughter, her mother and her aunt on the beach. And as soon as they just passed
just
by,
5 minutes
2 bombs exploded. Just like 5 minutes after she passed the area.
All right.
Now, why are you applying for asylum?
I was very active politically. I do believe that because of that, I'm targeted by ex-communists, ex-Securitate people that didn't like what I did, what I said, my deeds. They are out to get me.
Okay, were you a member of any groups or organizations in your home?
Political organization, yes. I was member of the National Liberal Party.
And when did you join that group?
Actually, I was a co-founder of the party immediately after the '89 revolution.
Did you have any other title or position?
Yeah, I was vice president. I would say within a few weeks we were quickly over 1,000 members. At that point, I mean, it was 2-3 weeks, 1 month after the revolution. Everybody was excited. Everybody was like, hey, the democracy is here. We're free. We can do whatever we want. We can express our views.
When were you married, ma'am?
أنت اتزوجتي؟
اتزوجت في 6 جانفي عام 94. 6 جانفي.
There is a difference in language. Which year? أي سنة؟
6 جانفي 94. ديسمبر.
ديسمبر.
لا ديسمبر وبعدين جانفي. January.
January?
Yeah. January.
January 94. It's just different countries, so there is some differences sometimes.
I turned it off. I thought it was off.
It's all right. Are you okay, ma'am?
I'm fine.
Okay. It's all right.
The problem is she speaks French too, and every once in a while she'll throw in a French word.
Sometimes she says
Let me say something. We're going to take our time, and we're going to do what we need to do this right, okay?
all right.
And although it's because it's hard enough to concentrate on them, that's why I don't want you talking. If there's a big mistake, let me know, because I want to do it right rather than be happy over here.
It's just she forgets and she talks to me in French, and I don't know French.
Okay, now let's try it again. When were you married?
I paid dearly for the fact that I was too enthusiastic when the first government changed, when Ceausescu fell and the new government came to power. Another government changes, and you have this. You have the same guy that killed people and was tried. He's appointed as not an employee, but the chief for the secret police for the western part of the country. This tells me everything. Now, this other guy who interrogated me, who hit me, who beat me,